Hey y'all, and this is YeahManThePodcast episode 14. And today we're talking about abusive women and the men who love them. So today we have Ben Awesome Newsom, Jeanette the Age of Sensation,
Hey.
and our special guest is Chad. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Chad. I come by way of San Antonio, Texas. Currently live in Arizona. Military, do my thing.
Cool.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So Chad, would you like to kind of explain, your story and what you may be going through at the current time?
So I guess first I want to start off by saying that my story is by no means a way to generalize women as a whole. My experience is solely my experience with a partner that I chose to start something with. And it didn't pan out because what it is. Things happened, a lot of things along the way, and it's been a long 4 years. Yeah, that's what it is.
Where did y'all meet at? Like, was y'all high school sweethearts?
No, so I was actually in 2012. I was deployed for 6 months to Guam, and that's where I met her at. This is back in the days when I was having fun doing my thing, you know what I'm saying? And I met her in the club, and at the time, she was a go-go dancer at one club, and she was a bartender in another. That's how I met her. That's how we had crossed paths. And I was actually friend zoned when we had first met. I tried to get at her when we first met, and she was at the time actually dating a Marine. So because of that, I I knew my role and I played it well. And we were very good friends for about 4 years before anything ever happened between us.
Okay. So what made you keep moving forward? Just personality? Y'all just had to...
I would say a lot of it had to do with, at the time, I would say a lot of it had to do with personality. For those 4 years, like I said, we were just good friends for those 4 years. I was always one of those dudes that she would confide in with whatever personal issues she had going on in her life. So we always had a lot going on amongst each other. She would talk to me about whatever issues she had with the dudes, whatever issues she had with the family, whatever else it was. And it was like as friends, we had this amazing connection. I can't even tell. We had this amazing connection as friends. But I learned along the way that the connection that I had with her as a friend was not the same connection that I would have with her as a spouse. It was two completely different people. I came to find out. It was tough.
What made you decide to? When did y'all decide to start actually dating? When did y'all actually decide to start dating and not be friends, be more than friends?
So I was going through a rough breakup with this one girl,
Okay.
and D, I call her D.
Okay.
D at the time was still a friend, and I had decided to confide in her about the breakup. And even before the breakup, I had ideas of like, what if, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if her and I were a thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, how good would it be? Because we have been friends for so long up to that point, and a lot of people have this idea that they just want to be in a relationship with somebody that they can call a friend.
Right.
And at
Right.
the time, that's kind of how I felt. So in the moment, I was at a place of weakness and started to confide in her about the breakup that I was going through. And then I had talked to her about my feelings towards her. And at the time, so she is actually from, have y'all ever heard of a little island called Saipan?
You talked to me about it when we talked the other day, but I'm not real familiar with it. No.
Is it an
So,
Asian
have y'all
country?
So have y'all ever heard of Guam? Have y'all ever heard of Guam?
Yes.
Alright, so Saipan is a little island, I'd say maybe like an hour flight off the coast of Guam. So they're very close together. And that's where she's actually from. Well, at the time when we were talking and things started to spark up, she was actually still in Saipan. And I was stationed in California. And I had said to her, I was like, hey, like, I'm feeling you. I've been feeling you for a long time. I know I've been a friend, this and that, the whole 9 yards, but I would love for us to have the opportunity to start a relationship. And from that point forward was when we actually decided that we were going to do that. And so she actually flew from Saipan to California. This was around February 2016 is when this happened.
So y'all have been friends for about 4 years.
Huh?
Y'all been friends for about 4 years.
Yeah. By that point, we have been friends for about 4 years. And so she flew, like I said, she flew from Saipan to Cali to visit me. And what the original plan was, because by that point, I already was expected to move to Japan. And so what the plan was at that point in time was she was gonna fly to Cali. She was gonna start doing her thing in Cali, and we were gonna work long distance. Is what was supposed to happen. Okay. So we were supposed to start in Cali. I was gonna move to Japan. She was gonna start doing her thing in Cali, and we were gonna travel back and forth and do the long distance thing and see where things went from there. Because originally in our mind was we didn't want to rush things. So she flew to Cali in February of 2016. I remember it because it was the day of the Super Bowl. So I forgot it was played in 2016, refresh my memory, but it was that day. In 2016, in February, she flew in. And so we met in 2016, February, and she ended up pregnant. We found out by the end of March she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really the biggest peak in the situation was the fact that happened. So we found out that she was pregnant. She hit me up one day because when she hit me up, she was actually staying in Los Angeles with one of her homegirls, and I was still at my home station, which is actually in Northern California, Beale Air Force Base, out of Linda, Yuba City, Marysville, California. And she hits me up, and she says, she hits me with that one line that a lot of dudes don't like to hear is, we need to talk. I was like, all right, man, so what do you have to talk about? And she says, well, I'm pregnant. And I was like, damn, I was like, how sure are you? And she says, pretty sure. I took my test, They came back positive. I took two of them, and they both came back positive. I took two just to make sure. I hadn't been to the doctor yet, but I took two just to make sure. And I'm pregnant. And she's talking to me like she's scared. And I was like, okay, you're pregnant. So what are we going to do? And she asked me, what do you want to do? So when she asked me that question, I knew off top that I wanted to take it a step further because I did not want to be away from the woman that was going to give me a child. Okay, so I said to her those exact words. And I said, I don't want to be away from you. You're going to give me a child. I want to take this a step further. Are you gay? And she said, yeah, I can be, but are you sure? And I'm like, yes, like, I don't want you to be away from me.
Was that Was that your first child?
Yes, my first child, my son, who is now 3 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, and so that is what I told her. And she pretty much agreed to it. So, cool, let's make it happen. So, we were in a rush, right, to make things work out because we found out she was pregnant in March. I was due to PCS to Japan in April. So the clock was ticking, right? So we ended up getting married April 15th, 2016. And I ended up actually extending my stay there by a month so that I can make it happen. So I didn't end up leaving for Japan until May 2016 was when I left for Japan. And that's when things really, that's when the ball started rolling. And at the time, I was extremely, personally, I was extremely excited. One, it's my first child. Two, it's with a woman that I've called my best friend for a long time. Granted, the situation could have been better planned, I guess you could say, but things happen for a reason. But I was just ready to go with it. So, from that point, it went to Japan. Just let me know when you want me to stop. I know I'm rambling.
I know, you good, man.
Yeah, so I ended up, when I moved from California to Japan, I actually had to leave without her at that point in time because I wasn't set up to move to Japan with a wife and a child. So once I got to Japan, I had to set it up so that she could move there with me, right?
What's the process of? So I don't mean to cut you off, but what's the process of moving a wife and child to another station, especially out of country like that? If you hadn't had it set up in the first place, is it a long process or?
Yeah, there is a bit of a process, but it's so in the military, it's what's called a company tour, right?
Okay.
And a company tour means that the military member is bringing a spouse and or child with them, right? So, like I said before, I already knew I was going to Japan before we even got together. So I already had what's called my orders, which my orders mean that I'm going to go from one base to the next. It's set in stone. That's what's going to happen, right? So when I had my original orders made, it was what's called unaccompanied, which means I'm just going by myself, right? I didn't have the time in California to rework my orders from unaccompanied to accompanied so that she could go with me at the same time. So I had to work all of that once I got to Japan to switch it up from unaccompanied to accompanied orders so that she could fly to Japan on the military dime.
Right.
If that makes sense. So that's what I was working when I first got there, right? So when I first got to Japan, I was working on that, right? And me and her, or excuse me, her and I, we're still staying in touch the whole night. We're talking day in and day out, every day, right? And when I first got to Japan, I didn't know anybody. The only friend that I had was a person that greeted me there when I landed in Japan. That was the only friend I had. And so majority of my time there when I first got there was spent with them. It was my coworker, his wife, and two of the kids. So I spent a lot of time with them when I first got there. So on the weekends, when I had nothing to do, because at the time I didn't have a house, I was still staying in what's called a building. It's pretty much like the hotels on base. Pretty much is what it is. And so instead of me spending the weekend in a little room, I would spend the weekend at my friend's house, right? And so this was the first time for me that things were starting to go downhill, right?
Okay.
Or actually, I wouldn't say going downhill. Things weren't going downhill at this point in time. It was kind of like a red flag.
So,
Or something that I guess you could say that we had to work through. But there was one weekend I stayed at my boy's house, and what we would do is we would chill at his crib, me, him, his wife, his two kids. We would chill at his crib. We would be getting down on the PlayStation or doing whatever else and chit chatting. We would get back from drinks, and instead of me trying to catch a cab home, I would sleep on the couch. I would wake up the next day, and I would get back to my room on bed at the time. Well, at the time, come to find out, my wife, she didn't appreciate that. So we're talking one day, and she says to me, she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? What am I doing?" And she says, "You're staying at their house on the weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, like me and my boy, his name's Rob." I was like, "Me and my boy Rob, like we kick it, we have some drinks, we play PlayStation, we do this, we do that, you know what I'm saying? And then I sleep on the couch, I wake up the next day and I leave. Like, yeah, that's what I'm doing." And she was like, "How do you think that makes me look when the people that know you see that my husband is staying in somebody's house?" And I'm like, I honestly don't know. Like, the thought never crossed my mind. I didn't know what to say. And she says, "Look, if this is what you're going to do, I will not come to Japan. I will stay in California. I will give birth to your child in California. I will stay here if this is what it's going to be." And I was asking her, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "You drinking at your friend's house on the weekend." And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm not doing anything. Like, I have, at that point in time, I have really had, like, no type of, like, day-to-day responsibilities at the time. Like, I'm still trying to, like, adjust to life in Japan. Like, I got nothing to do. But in her mind, it was different. In her mind, it was, my husband is staying in somebody's house. How does that make me look? Is how she felt about it. So she hit me with the, "I'm just not going to come to Japan. I'll give birth to your child in California, and you just won't see us." And so what I said to her was pretty much what, "You're blowing it out of proportion. It doesn't have to be all that."
so,
If
so how long were y'all married when she had made that statement?
we were married, this was about 3 months.
So do you feel like you had enough time with? I know it was a rush thing. Did you feel like you kind of knew her? I guess after you got married to her, do you think that's when things kind of changed? Like maybe she's like, I got that paper now, so I can kind of say what I want. And do you feel like she was being manipulative, or?
So, one of the things that I definitely learned about my relationship with her is you never really know a person until you live with them.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
To knowing somebody long distance or knowing somebody through social media, because a lot of our friendship was through social media.
Okay.
And when it comes to social media, people have a large amount of control over the picture that's painted of them, from their statuses to whatever they share to anything else. They have the ability to pretty much hide behind a keyboard.
Right. Keyboard gangsters. I've met a couple of those.
And like hindsight being 2020, I feel like that's kind of what it was. Because, like I said, her and I were good friends for about 4 years. But when we were good friends for 4 years, it was all long distance. Like there was no in-person, no physical connection throughout those 4 years. It was all through phone calls, text messages, DMs, the whole 9 yards. Like it was all through that. So when it comes to trying to connect with somebody on that level, there's a lot that is missed when there is no in-person connection. The saying goes, when you first meet a person, you don't meet them, you meet their representative. That's how the saying goes. And one of the things that I learned through her is that that's a solid saying. Because through the entire time I knew her, it was almost like this picture was painted of her as like this perfect person. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, not just women, but men as well. But a lot of people, when they say what they say on social media, they oftentimes paint themselves to be a victim.
Right.
In any situation that it's in, they paint themselves to be a victim. Always. That's what they do. Like, no person is going to get online and bash themselves and tell the world, this is what I did. I messed this up. I messed that up. I said this. I said that. I did this. I did that. No person is going to really do that when it comes to social media. You're not really going to see a whole lot of that. So because of that, I feel like there was, well, it's not that I feel like, I know that there was a side of her that I didn't know up until that point.
Okay, so Chad, you said you had some red flags. What were the red flags that you had to this point?
Well, when she got mad at him.
So-
She got mad about him being at the house.
Yeah, get mad at him about being at his friend's house. He wasn't doing nothing, but she blew it all out of proportion.
Wow.
That was like a big red flag.
So the red flag at that point in time wasn't necessarily how she felt about the situation. It was her reaction to it.
Okay.
The red flag for me at that point in time was taking it to such an extreme to threaten to not come to Japan like we had planned already. And to tell me that she was going to give birth to my first child somewhere else because of that situation. That was the red flag right there. So I had no issues at all with her emotions in that situation. I had no issues at all with her feeling some type of way about it. Like, all right, so let me backtrack. That's a lot. So I did feel some type of way about her feeling the way she felt because to me, I was doing nothing wrong. But it's not like that's something that we can't talk to. You know what I'm saying? Like we can talk to it. We can have a constructive conversation and come to a meaning and fix it. You know what I'm saying? But it was just the extreme that she took it to that was the red flag for me.
The ultimatum.
Yes, exactly. The ultimatum. Ultimatums are garbage. Like that's not a situation you want to put somebody in.
Because it could backfire.
At least at that level. Like when it comes to like a situation like that, in my opinion, does not deserve an ultimatum. I feel like that. Like I feel like when it comes to a relationship, that's low hanging fruit.
So what were some of the, so she obviously she came to Japan and gave birth to your son, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So what was the ultimate result of that? Did you stop hanging out with your friend, or was she kind of isolating you in Japan at that point?
I would say at first no. So there was like a gradual progression in things. When things first started, of course I still had hopes, you know what I'm saying? Like we were so young in the marriage, you know what I'm saying? Granted, we never had that honeymoon stage that a lot of people have, so we pretty much had to like dive in first into that situation. But at the beginning, I always felt like there wasn't anything that we couldn't work through. But it just started. So this whole conversation that we're having, right,
Mm-hmm.
is based off of a meme that I had shared on Facebook, which was pretty much the manipulation, mental and emotional abuse of a woman towards a man, which is oftentimes discarded. But I started to see it. This type of mental and emotional abuse, I started to see it more and more throughout our marriage. It started with, so whenever we would have a disconnect, whenever we would have an argument, right, it would always it would always escalate to her either threatening to separate from me and or divorce me.
Right.
That's what every disconnect, every argument led to. It didn't matter the size of the argument. That's what it always led to.
So I could be arguing about dishes and she threatened to leave you.
Yeah, and that's what it would be. So it would put me into a position to be like, to ask myself, is this something that I want to, is this something that I want to happen? And my answer would always be no. So because my answer was always no, I would always bend to her will. And I would always apologize to her, regardless of the fact if I felt like I did something wrong or not. I always apologize because in some way, shape, or form, she was hurt. So I felt like, in a sense, I was apologizing for her being hurt, not so much for, I don't know, it's confusing to say. Like I was in like a really weird place at the time. I always knew I was apologizing. I never quite understood what I was apologizing for, besides the fact that her feelings were hurt. That was it.
Did she have like at the time, like, did y'all have a house in America, or did she kind of?
No. So we didn't have a house in America. We were staying in Japan at the time. We had a 3-bedroom apartment in Japan.
Okay.
At the So, have you all ever been in a situation where you all just didn't want to escalate the situation, so you just kept your mouth shut?
Yeah, my ex-wife.
Yeah.
My ex-wife.
And so that is the situation that I felt I was in during that time.
Okay.
Because
Like you were walking on eggshells.
Huh?
Like you were walking on eggshells?
oh, definitely, without a doubt, 100%, I was walking on eggshells. Every day that I was with her, I was walking on eggshells. So I started to notice a trend. I started to notice that the more that I opened my mouth, the more that we argue. And so when it comes to a relationship, I feel there's a difference between an argument and a discussion. We never had discussions. We only had arguments. That was it. And it always came whenever I would speak my mind. Whenever there was something that was upsetting me about the relationship, or there was something she did one day that just kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? If I ever spoke my mind on these types of issues, it would start as a discussion, but it would always escalate to an argument, and then it would, if it got past that point, it would reach the point where she would threaten to divorce me. Those were that was the norm.
Do you think that was her go-to thing? Was to threaten to divorce? Like her, kind of like a finishing move, like wrestling Stone Cold has a stunner, Rock had rock bottom. Yeah. Do you think that was like her kind of her go-to thing? Like, oh, I'm gonna divorce you.
Without a doubt, that was like that Shawn Michaels Sweet Chin music, bro.
Sweet Chin music. I like that.
She would hit me with that Sweet Chin music all the time, bro. Like, no joke. It would happen, like, it was almost like I could set my watch to it. Like, if we would ever have a discussion, I could set my watch and I'd be like, all right, in 5 minutes, she's going to threaten to divorce me. In 5 minutes, I'm going to get hit with that Sweet Chin music. That's what would happen.
So she was tuning her leg up, stomping on the canvas, and she was like, all right, I'm about to hit him with it.
She was ready, man. She was shaking the rope like Hulk Hogan, swinging his hair. I threw my hair back and forth type of shit. She was like looking for it.
Wow, that's quite a few threats, and that's like, if you can set your watch to it, that's a lot of threats.
Do you think? I was going to ask, do you think that maybe that was her go-to because maybe that's what she wanted?
No. I don't think that was her go-to because that's what she wanted. Because what she wanted wasn't for us to separate. What she wanted was control. Because never once when she threatened to separate or divorce me, did she want to actually separate or divorce me. That was never what she wanted. What she wanted was control of the conversation, of the situation. That's what she wanted. So there was always empty threat when she would say these things. That's why it was 100% manipulation. So a person like that, they want nothing but control of the situation. It doesn't matter what they have to do to get control of that situation, they will do it. And once they get control of that situation, they'll backpedal and say, well, I didn't mean that. I only said it because I was mad. I only said this, that, and the third. I didn't actually mean it. I only said what I said because you hurt my feelings, but I didn't actually mean it.
Do you feel?
Okay.
And she was in Japan with you at the time. She was in Japan with you.
Yeah, this was all in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, this was during that time. But yeah, so that lasted for about, I'd say, almost 2 years. I actually I'd say I'd say a bit more than 2 years, because it came to a point in time when I told her that pretty much the threats were going to stop, because I started noticing the trend. Right, she would hit me with the threats, but she would always backtrack. She wouldn't mean it. That's not what she actually wanted. She was hurt. She was feeling this way. That and the third. Okay, cool. I understand that. I get that. But you're going to stop hitting me with these threats. So I hit her with, the next time you tell me that, you better mean it. Because whether or not you want it to happen, I'm going to make it happen. So if you ever, in your life again, tell me that you want to divorce me, it's gonna happen, point blank period, because I'm done with it, right? So once I put that out there on the table, I had noticed immediately that the threats started to escalate, because the threats went from I'm going to divorce you to I'm going to kill myself, is what they had escalated to. So, hindsight being 2020, I feel like it was really a reach for her to try to keep some type of control. Because she knew that she showed her hand when it came to the divorce and separation. Alright, so I can't tell him that I'm going to divorce him again, because if I do that again, that's the end. So, what's the next thing that I can do that'll help me gain that control? Oh, I know. I'm going to tell him that I'm going to kill myself. That's what I'm going to do. So, that's what it transitions to.
So, did it get abusive during this time? Or did
You know what?
abuse, physically abuse?
Not necessarily physically, but
Yeah.
more. Do you feel it's more of mental and emotional abuse as far as her threats, and then threatening to harm herself?
So when it came to her, it was nothing but mental and emotional abuse, because she never physically abused me. She never did that. It was always emotional and mental when it came to her and what she did.
So she kept her hands to herself, but her words were her punches.
Oh no, she definitely kept her hands to herself. She definitely kept her hands to herself, but when a person has that type of mental and emotional grip on you, they don't have to put their hands on you.
Right. Her words were her punches.
So it transitioned to that. And then that lasted for maybe, so what, I got back from the desert in January, was it 2018? That, the threats of suicide lasted until about September 2018 before I figured it out. And I said I was done.
Okay. So the threats of suicide and things like that, did it keep you up at night? Like wondering if she was gonna try to do something while you were asleep, or was she doing while you were at work? Or?
it affected every aspect of my life. Um, let alone my relationship with her. It affected the relationship with my son. It affected my work life. It affected my sleep life. It affected every ounce of my being. So much to the point that I am now diagnosed with PTSD because of my marriage.
Oh,
I've been in I've been in I've been in the military for 15 years. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been bombed on. I've been to the Middle East twice. I've been shot at. But I have PTSD because of my marriage. And that is just to give you kind of a perspective of the amount of mental and emotional strain that my marriage to her had on me. And not only am I diagnosed with PTSD because of that, I'm now medicated for anxiety and depression. And none of that has anything at all to do with my 15 years in the military. It has all to do with my marriage to her.
so
That is how much of a strain that it had on me.
So let me ask you a question. Since you were diagnosed with anxiety and depression because of your marriage, has it ever hospitalized you because of your marriage? Were you ever hospitalized for that? And would it have put you? Would it
I
put?
was never.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to ask. Do you think it would? Do you think that you being diagnosed with these diagnoses, do you think it would have put your military career at at risk?
So it almost did because so it took me a while to even realize the type of effect that my marriage, my situation with her had on me. So I started having heart palpitations, which at times felt like I was having a heart attack. And my vision started going bad, and I started having all of these random off the wall health issues that just made no sense to me. How do I start having these heart palpitations? How does my vision just start going bad the way that it is? How do I start having all these random issues? And so I started seeing the doctor, and it went from me seeing my doctor to me being sent to a behavioral health specialist to seek further help. And they were mentioning to me the anxiety and things of that nature, but I didn't want to be medicated because at the time I was afraid of what consequences that would have on my career, right?
Right.
And so time goes on, and I'm pretty much just trying to deal with it, while at the same time I'm still trying to work through this marriage that's been at the time. And I start having these episodes where my heart pretty much gives out and I pass out. So they have to call 911. There's the medical shows up. They put me on the gurney, the whole 9 yards. They take me to the hospital. This happened twice.
Right.
And so I'm talking to the health specialist, and he's asking me why I don't want to take this medication. And I explained to him that I want to just work through it because I don't know what kind of consequences this is going to have on my career. Because now, when I have to do things like deploy, go to the desert, if I have to fire a weapon and things of that nature, like, is this going to keep me from doing what I'm supposed to do? That's why I don't want to take this route. And the doctor pretty much says to me, like, look, you got two options. He's like, look, so the way that he broke it down to me was, you're not wanting to take this medication because you're afraid of the consequences that it's going to have on your career, right? And I said, yes, sir, that's why I don't want to take the medication. And he said, all right, well, what's going to happen the next time that you're at work and you just pass out and you just fall out? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the military is going to do? He says the military is going to look to medically discharge you because this is a reoccurring issue. He was like, you take this medication and you have the opportunity to fix this issue. You don't take this medication and this is what happens, so you're pretty much in a lose-lose situation. What are you going to do? And I was like, well, when you put it that way, it's a good point. I'll go ahead and take the medication. So I started taking the medication in the summer of 2019.
Okay.
I've been taking it since then. I've had no heart palpitations, no events of me passing out. None of that has pretty much all been done. And it's also helped me to better handle my situation that I had with my son's mother.
Okay.
So what was her reaction when you would have these occurrences?
What was what?
Hold on. Were you and her? Okay, you said that you left in September of 2018.
Oh no, I didn't leave. No. I thought I didn't even explain that part of the.
Okay, so Jarnell was asking.
Like, what would be her reaction
When you had these occurrences, what was her reaction?
Oh, her reaction. She showed some concern, a little bit. I wouldn't say not as much as what would be expected because at that point in time we were already on the downhill, and the expectation was already to get divorced at that point in time. Our situation was a little different. So the moment that I told her that I was going to divorce her, I knew that the divorce wasn't going to happen right away. So I knew that she was going to still be legally, I knew that we were going to still be legally married, right? But pretty much the ground rules that I laid down was we're pretty much just married on a sheet of paper in my eyes at that point in time. It was just a sheet of paper that was it. I had explained to her that in my heart and in my mind, we were already done. And I need my space, you need your space. You need to improve yourself, I need to improve myself. Stay out of my business, I will stay out of your business. That's pretty much what it came down to. So when I started having these episodes, that was pretty much the reaction that she had, which is exactly the reaction that I pretty much asked her to have, which is pretty much like, stay out of my business. So I can't fault her for that. She's not at wrong for that at all. By no means, shape, or form. That's what I asked for.
Do you feel like she even though you asked her to be that way, that the more caring side should have taken over? Or do you think she just like, okay, well, that's what you laid down, so that's what I'm going to do?
So, I have been able to tell throughout these times that she has wanted to care.
Okay.
Never once have I doubted has she wanted to care. She's wanted to show that she cares in some way, shape, or form. But she doesn't because I tell her not to. So with that being said, I was going to this one. So she's it's weird. Like, have you ever known a person that is mean but does nice things? Does that make sense?
Right.
Is what?
Is mean but does nice things.
Oh yeah. A lot.
Yeah. A person that is mean and does nice things, right? Like, they do nice things for those around them, but what is the sincerity behind their actions? You know what I'm saying? So when it came to me and her, for a while, I have very much doubted her sincerity and her nicety.
Okay.
Towards me.
Towards you.
So towards me specifically. So because I doubt her sincerity in her actions, I pretty much just don't do anything for me. I don't want you to do anything nice for me. Don't. I don't want you. If it doesn't involve our son, I don't care to deal with it. Is where I'm at. Like, I can very much handle myself. I don't need you to care for me. I need you to care for our son. I need us to do right by our son is what I need us to do. I don't need you to give me I guess you can call it empty actions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to give me these empty actions. I don't need it because I don't trust you. Because you have already shown me how manipulative you are. So because of the fact that she's been so manipulative towards me, I do not want her doing anything for me. Because I don't know what's real, I don't know what's fake when it comes to her.
Right.
And that fills my mind with a sense of paranoia that I just don't want to feel.
Let me ask you a difficult question. What's the relationship with your son, and how do you feel that your son takes in everything?
I honestly feel like nowadays my son is doing better compared to where he was when he was about, I'd say, 1 year old. My son was actually one of the driving reasons behind my decision when it came to me and his mother.
How old is
Because,
How old is your son now?
It's 3.
yeah, so his mother would throw these fits, right? I've had to keep her from doing things like slamming her head into a wall. She's done things like punch holes in the wall. She's thrown these fits where, like, she's pulling at her hair. Like, she's yanking the sides of her head, like, pulling at her hair, throwing a fit, like kicking and screaming on the ground, right? Like, she's throwing these types of fits. And it took a bit, but I felt like I started to see the effect that it had on our son's time. Because my son would be only like 1 year old, and he would throw these fits. And on God, when he would throw these fits, it would like eerily resemble the fits that his mom used to throw.
He was imitating her.
Pretty much. And it would scare me to death when I would see him at 1 year old throw these fits and wonder where he got it from. Where is he getting this? Because when a child's that young, they don't use words. When a child's that young, they are very much, when it comes to people, they're very much in tune with the mannerisms. They're very much in tune with the energy of a person. And they reciprocate that energy of the people around them. So when it came to him throwing these fits that he was throwing that were so eerily similar to the ones that his mother would throw, it scared me to death. And that was one of the driving reasons behind why I made the decision that I made. Was because, like, yes, everybody wants to raise their child in a household with both the mother and the father. Okay, great, but what energy does that bring into your household? What type of influence is that on your child? Is that a good influence? Is that a bad influence? Like, yeah, you can work to make a marriage work, for lack of a term, but is it really beneficial to the child? So it came to a point where I had to think to myself, is me wanting to make this work good for my son? And when I saw him, when I would see him throw the fist that he threw at 1 year old, that was pretty much like an eye-opener for me, right? Mm-hmm. Not only that, but like, he would throw these fits that looked just like his mother, but his mother wouldn't know what to do. What do I do with him? How do I calm him down? He's throwing a fit. Do I just leave him here? What do I do? And that's when I come in, and to me, it was pretty much like, I've been practicing. I got this. It's how it's felt. And that was not a good feeling for me to have. Right. I hated that feeling. I dreaded that feeling. It was horrible for me to feel that every day with him throwing those fits and then his mom throwing the same fit the next day. I couldn't do it. I couldn't put up with it. It was heartbreaking.
How did your family react to that? Like, what was their thoughts, or what was her family's thoughts?
How did what?
How did your her family and your family? How did they react to that? How did they? Did they try to? What did they do?
Were your families aware of the situations that y'all were having?
So my family wasn't very aware of the details until well after we said we were divorcing. But in the midst of it, they didn't really know anything in the midst of it because I was always really big on pretty much like keeping my family out of my business. Because, like, think about it. If your spouse does something wrong and you vent to your mother or your father about the wrong that your spouse is doing, do you know how hard it is for that spouse to come back from that? It's dead impossible.
Right.
They never forget that. And so that's not something that I ever want to do. So I know me on my side, I never really spoke about things until well after we were getting divorced. But once when they first heard that we were getting divorced, like, of course they were all like, oh no, like, we don't want that to happen, what's going on? But, like, let's try to fix it. And I can say on my side, for the most part, my mother and my father, do they want to see me go through that? No, they don't. They don't. But my mother, having been through an abusive, mentally, emotionally, and physical relationship with my former stepfather, she gets it. She understands it. My father pretty much just stays to himself. Like, if it don't concern him, it don't concern him. He don't care about nothing. That's his thing. On her side, side, with her family, they're very much in tune with the relationship and everything else. So exactly how they feel about it, I'm not too sure. I've chosen not to really try to understand that because they will pretty much take her side. Pretty much, I'm the bad guy. Is how I feel about that situation. So I'm not even gonna waste my time with that. So that's how I feel about her side of the family. My side of the family, they pretty much stay out of business that doesn't concern me.
Did you and her, did y'all ever try any type of like couples therapy or anything like that when y'all were going through this?
We did actually, and that was also another eye opener for me because counseling's not going to work if both parties are not in tune, right? So we did this. I signed this up for this marriage seminar, and I pretty much got the day to work for us to go to this marriage seminar, and you're in this seminar with all these couples, and you go through all these exercises, and you get to meet people, whatnot, the whole 9 yards, right? And one of the things that was very eye-opening to me during the seminar was they did this little exercise where you're supposed to stop, turn, and look at your partner, and you're supposed to hold their hand. And the counselor said, tell your partner 3 things that they do that you appreciate. And I was like, yo, that's easy. So I'm holding hands, I'm looking at her, and I'm like, I appreciate that you do this, that, and that. All right, cool, now it's your turn. And she's like, I appreciate that you do this and that. But I really wish that you would wash the dishes more. What? That was not the exercise. You completely ignored the directions that were given to us from the counselor. I know you heard the directions because I followed them, and if I can follow them, I know you can. But she just completely chose to ignore all that and throw in little things like that throughout the session. So, to me, that was disheartening. Like, that's what we're doing. Okay. We also, so, towards the tail end of everything, I signed us up for a counseling session, right? And what this counselor was supposed to do was have a one-on-one with me, have a one-on-one with her, and then have a combined session, right? Mm-hmm. And so I hit up this counselor and I scheduled the session, right? So I hit her up and I'm like, yo, so this is what's gonna happen. And I tell her that I'm gonna take my one-on-one session. Do you want to take yours? And she said no. And I'm like, you don't want to take a one-on-one session with the counselor? And she's like, no. And I'm like, why not? And she said, because I don't know her. Okay, I don't know her either. Like, I don't get with the issue that pretty much she wasn't gonna do the one-on-one. All right, cool. I'm gonna still do my one-on-one, and then after I do my one-on-one, we can do the couple since that's what you want to do. All right, so I had my one-on-one session with the doctor, and my one-on-one session went longer than scheduled because I had a whole lot of stuff to do. I aired the whole place out, whatever. So the doctor says to me, she was like, so from what I'm hearing, it sounds like your wife is going to try to take control of the session. And the doctor was like, I want you to know that if she tries to do that, I'm not going to let that happen. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know why you're telling me this, but thank you. Much appreciated, right? So we come together for our group session. And so the doctor starts talking to her first, because she already talked to me. So she starts talking to her first, tries to like get her to like unwind a little bit, you know what I'm saying, giving her little jokes here and there, trying to get her to relax a little bit, and then just starts talking. They start, and I'm sitting there in the room with them, and they're talking back and forth. And so the doctor brings up the 4 times that she threatened to leave me, right? So when she threatened to leave me, it was 2 times separation, 2 times divorce. Pretty much, in my mind, all 4 times she threatened to leave me, right? So the doctor was like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about the times that you threatened to leave Chad. And she was like, okay. And the doctor said, let's talk about the times that you threatened to divorce him. And this woman sat there with a straight face and said to the doctor in front of me, said, I never threatened to divorce him. When I say I wanted to lose my mind, I wanted to lose my mind right there in the middle of the session. I know you see me looking at you, telling these lies, and you can say with a straight face that you did not threaten to divorce me. Wow. So once that was said, pretty much that session to me was scrap. What's the point? I'm wasting my time. Because if we cannot both be open during these sessions, it's a waste of time. Why am I even here? So, yeah, we had a few times when we tried a few sessions, and that's what came out of those sessions. I pretty much came to the conclusion that they were pointless because we were not both trying.
So what's the current status now that you're out of Japan, obviously, right? You're now stationed in Arizona.
Yes.
So what's the current status now of y'all's relationship, and I guess are you co-parenting, or how's everything going now?
All right. So to sum this up, we are not yet officially divorced.
Okay.
We are not. We are still on paper married.
It's a long process.
I came to the conscious decision that I did not want to leave the mother of my child high and dry. So what I did is I decided I'm gonna wait until after, because when I told her that I was going to divorce her, it was September 2018. After some trial period, around March of 2019, I told her that I would not divorce her until after IPCS. And the reason why I told her this was because at the time, throughout our marriage, she did not have a job. She had no steady income. So she couldn't do things like apply for a loan to get a car. She couldn't do things like sign on a lease for an apartment or a home or things of that nature. She couldn't do that because at the time she didn't have any type of credit history. So because of that, at March 2019, I told her that I would wait so that she would have time to get a job and build some type of credit history, save some type of money, do something good for herself, give some type of foundation to me proceed before I sign the papers.
Right.
Because I just couldn't put the mother of my child out on her ass like that. I couldn't do that. That's just not in me. So that's why we're where we are at now. Okay. So I can definitely say from September 2018 to now, November 2020, she has made good strides. I will say that about her. I don't want to end this podcast with me just absolutely bad-mouthing
right.
the mother of my child.
Right.
She has made strides. She has made progress.
Mm-hmm.
Just within this past week, in the same day, I want to say it was, what day? Was it, we talked on Tuesday? Was it Tuesday?
Yeah, I want to say it's about Tuesday. It's probably Tuesday we talked. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday we talked, and on Tuesday, not only did she get a job that day, she bought a car.
All right. I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are strides in the right direction. So once her and I get divorced, I know she's going to have a stable enough foundation beneath her feet to be the best version of herself for our son that she can be. Because regardless of anything that we've gone through, regardless of anything that she's gone through, she is still the mother of my child.
Right.
And any man that listens to this episode, I want them to understand that. That is still the mother of your child, no matter what happens. Regardless of the good or bad, that's still the mother. And you are still the father. And it is, and I felt it was my responsibility to be the best example of not only a father, but a man and a partner for my son. So, of all that's gone on, that was my biggest focus. That was the reason why, because, I mean, granted, like, way back when all of this started happening, I wanted to say, fuck this, and just kick her to the curb and just say, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
But when you have a child involved,
make it work.
That makes you work for something more. When you have a child involved, at least when that child is your focus. So she's now made progress, right steps in the right direction. She will now soon have a stable foundation beneath her feet. So when we sign those papers, not only is she going to be good, my son's going to be good. We will have better known how to co-parent. And I will have better learned how to understand a person with mental health issues, because that is ultimately what she has, is mental health issues.
Right.
So what's up?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
That's
So right now, do you feel that since it's already decided that you are going to get divorced, do you feel that maybe your relationship with her is like more friendly? Is it better that you know now that you're not as emotionally attached to her?
So I'm gonna say no. There's still stuff to be made, but me personally, I cannot heal until I get my fix.
Right.
Because they say you can't heal in the place that you were hurt, and as long as she's always around and I have to see her every day, I cannot heal.
So you still live together?
I need to heal. So I feel like for me to get to a better place, we have to have our own space.
So Chad, what's y'all's current living situation right now in Arizona?
So our current living situation right now, she is still currently living with me. And that's what makes it complicated, is because I've waited this long to allow her the opportunity to get back on her feet, us the opportunity to learn how to co-parent. It's now gotten to the point where I'm pretty much just waiting on her to save up the money that she needs to get her own place, and then that's that. Which she doesn't really have a choice because once those papers are served, and that's that.
Is there
Huh?
is there any government programs that would kind of help her do that so you can kind of
Are there any what?
are there any government
programs.
programs that would kind of help her with that so that can be behind the two of you?
So yeah, she has, so as far as like the government programs, she has been going to mental health university. She has been doing that. I wish she would have taken a program years back. So when a person in the military, right, does what she did and is hospitalized, if they're in the States, right, they are pretty much mandated to stay in the hospital for 3 days. And they're disconnected from the world. They pretty much stay in the hospital and they are under medical care 24/7 for those 3 days, right? The 2 times that I had to stop her from hanging herself, because of the fact that we were in Japan, and at the time she was on what's called SOFA status. So SOFA status in Japan pretty much means like you're kind of like a resident of Japan in a sense, and you abide by Japanese law. Well, by law in Japan, they cannot force you to seek help. So, because she was under SOFA status when these things happened, the military doctors could not force her to take these 3 days of help. And because they could not force her to do it, she did not take it. Both times, she denied it. These 3 days of help that she could have had. And the only reason why she didn't want to take these 3 days is because they told her that while she was in the hospital, she could not have her cell phone. That is why she did not want to seek those 3 days help. So that is one of the things that are in play. Like when it comes to the military, if you're ever a person that takes that step and you end up hospitalized, you take these 3 days. And that's what those 3 days are supposed to do. They're supposed to help, like, kind of like refocus you. And help you realize things and help you on a path to get the help that you need. They have things like mental health that you can go and see. You can go to mental health. They have things like BHOP, which is the behavioral health specialist, which is what I saw, which is like a step below mental health. They have programs that you can take depending on, like, let's say, like, your mental health is something that is due to drinking too much. They have classes for that, for drinking too much. Like, the military has a lot of services provided to us for free to help us cope with these things, to help us get through these things. They do.
Do you think she wanted her cell phone to kind of gain like maybe sympathy from the outside world? So that's why she didn't want to go in there and be disconnected from the outside world. Maybe she wanted to try like, oh, hey y'all, you know how people put things up on Facebook and things like that. Do you think that's may have been one of the driving reasons she chose not to go, or she just didn't want to be disconnected from her cell phone because people live on their cell phone nowadays?
She didn't want to be disconnected from her cell phone because she holds a lot of weight in, but not she holds a lot of weight. She puts a lot of energy into social media, into the image that she gets to portray. That's, in my opinion, that's why she wanted her cell phone. Because one of the things that I've noticed about her is she's not going to vent to people that she knows she has no opportunity of swaying in her direction. So because of that, she loves social media because she gets to paint this picture of herself. She gets to paint not only for a fact, not only did she paint a picture of herself as a victim, she also took the opportunity to throw out false narratives about my character.
Correct. Okay.
Which I know for a fact she's done. I know for a fact she's done it. I've seen the screenshots. I've seen the text messages. I've seen Twitter. I've seen Tinder. I've seen all that. I know she's done it. And in my opinion, that's why she was so attached to her cell phone at that point in time. Because at that point in time, it's not like she didn't have friends around her. She had friends in Japan. She had a lot of friends in Japan. It's just she had more control on social media as far as the narrative.
That's control. So we're kind of out of time. We gotta start wrapping it up. But I guess my main question to you would be, since it was the title, Abusive Women and the men that love them. As far as you're concerned, what would you say to the men out there that are remaining silent about being abused by their significant other that happens to be a female?
Can I ask you one more question before you answer
That
what is the future you see in when y'all and if y'all separate? Who will take custody of the child?
so we have already agreed, as far as custody of our son, that I'm going to get the higher percentage. I had pitched to her 51-50, but she, for whatever reason, pitched me, 54, was that 46?
47.
Yeah, so in the military, in order for me to maintain the benefits for my son, I have to at least have 51%. So that's why we've agreed to at least a 51-49. Because it's for the betterment of our child that I maintain these benefits for him. And I've already told her off top, whatever benefits I get for him, let's say my son is staying with, when my son is staying with her, whatever benefits I get for him go to her during that time period. Because that's for him, that's not for me. So we've agreed on that, is what we've agreed upon, is I'll have majority custody so that I can maintain my military benefits for him.
Okay. That's good. Y'all are able to work that out to where he's able to continue to get your military benefits and things like that. But again, back to my question I was asking you, what would you say to the men out there that are currently remaining silent about being abused by a significant other? What would your message be to them?
My first question would be, what's the point of being silent?
Okay.
Is society breeds us to believe that we are just supposed to suck it up, that we're just supposed to endure, that we're supposed to remain silent. And in my opinion, that's not concrete. That is one thing that leads to the health issues that a lot of us have. That is also, I feel, a reason that a lot of us do not know how to actually handle a relationship because of the fact that we're so focused on trying to hide what's actually real, we're not taking the time to deal with it. And when we don't take the time to deal with it, we don't know how to handle it. And when we don't know how to handle it, then our relationships go south. Men need to learn to speak up in their relationship when it comes to these types of things. All right? Not only will it benefit us, but it will also benefit the women that want to listen. Because a lot of women don't realize that they do these things because it's the norm for them. It's been okay by society for them to do these things. It's been okay by society for them to suck it up and just go on about their business. But we need to speak up. We need to let it be known. Talk to your women. Whoever you're with, the woman you're with, let them know how you feel about whatever it is, and don't be ashamed of expressing those emotions. I feel like a lot of us men don't know how to express our emotions because of that.
Right.
And
Okay.
that is ultimately a huge downfall when it comes to relationships.
Okay.
The more that we learn how to get in tune with our emotions, the better that we'll be able to communicate with our women. The more that we are in tune with our emotions, the more that women will understand what they're doing. They might better see, well, me throwing out these threats, me threatening to divorce him but not really meaning it, that's not okay. I need to stop that. I see that now because he's talked to me. Me threatening to separate from him but not really meaning it, that's not okay. I know that now because he's talked to me about it. Me using his child as a tool against him is not okay. I thought it was, but I know it's not now. And there's a lot that can come out of men opening up. I feel like we really need to learn that more. But that's not to, by no way, shape, or form, is that to take away weight from the action of women. It's just saying that we can possibly do more to help fix the situation.
Okay.
Well, I would like to say thank you for joining our show.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for letting me talk. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been what, 15 years, bro?
Bruh, it's been a hot minute.
It's 15 years and we end up reconnecting and going on podcast, talk about our relationships. But yeah, it's really good talking to you, man. I really do appreciate you sharing your story. Jake, you guys gonna say?
Well, I want to know your thought about our show, which will be episode 15. It's why do some men keep women secret? So I guess,
Why do men keep women secrets? Let us list all the reasons.
Yeah, I just want to see, what do you think about that episode? And we can.
Why do some men keep women a secret?
Yeah.
Right.
Probably because they got a wife at home. They don't want wifey to know.
Hold on. See, now you going.
It could be because maybe he knows that, his friends are gonna make fun of him. Maybe, she's not, there's a lot of reasons why dudes do it. Or maybe they just don't want to. Maybe it just don't want to. They don't want other people to know that they may be involved with somebody.
It could be because they don't know how to act in public.
I
Because I knew somebody like that, and I knew somebody they was. I just feel like it was embarrassment from somebody.
What were we gonna say?
There are multiple reasons as to why a man would keep a woman a secret. But I feel like women can answer that question just as good as why they keep all these men a secret. Now, let's be real. Women, when it comes to men, they got more sausage in the closet than men got kitties. But
It's true. It's true. We might need you on that show.
Women have a, hey, I can guarantee you, go in, hey, whoever is on the spot, hey, Ben, go and check her inbox, and let's look at yours. All right, let's look at the differences as far as the amount of people that have kept secrets. But you always want to keep that possible. It's like calling a spade a hand, or a hand of spades, I should say.
All right.
You got that five.
Well,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
women do it too.
You know what I'm saying? You got that five in a possible. You never know. You want to save that possible for a rainy day.
This is true. This is true.
That's in case of emergency, break glass.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm a woman. I can tell you. Yes. You know?
So we're definitely going to have to keep you in mind when we have this next go around. So if you have to get like a random call,
You know what? Let's look at it like this, right? You are the Spurs. That is Ginobili 6 men off the bench. That's
right. Okay. she call you off the bench. You gotta come in there and ball out. Or you remember what was it? 03 when Kerr came in there and shot what? 12 points and sat down.
Bro, stay less.
Kerr came in there, shot 3, shot another 3, shot another 3, shot another 3, hit all of them, and then sat down. Pop looked at him and said, "Hey, go shoot out the game." He said, "All right, coach," and shot him out, and then sat down. I mean, that's how it be. But yeah, man, I really like I said, man, I really appreciate you coming on here with us and sharing your story. A very inspiring story. I mean, like no bullshit. A very inspiring story. Most people wouldn't be willing to share that with the world, so to speak. And you were willing to get on here and share it with us, and let me know out there that there is help out there that you can get, and there's people out there that you can talk to. And my inbox is open. I don't know if your inbox is open. I ain't gonna tell none of your stuff, but I'm pretty sure you throw your stuff out there. We're open to listen.
Michelle, I did pray that everything works out for you. And
I am in an open book. If anybody ever wants to hit me up and talk to me about something, just let me know. We can crack open some beers, some drinks, whatever, and we can vent. We can have a session. I'm all for it.
All right, man.
Well, thank you for being on our show today. And as we all know, next week's show is going to be pretty interesting because we're going to talk about why men keep women's secrets. And I guess we can flip it around. And see why women keep men's secret.
This is true.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. So, y'all.
She got a lot to say.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about that. So everybody tune in. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and
comment,
share. Chad, please subscribe to the show. And
YeahManThePodcast.
YeahManThePodcast. I'm gonna tag you in it when I post it. I mean, if you want to join next week, more than happy.
Let us know.
We're happy to have
we'll
you.
Call you.
We might need some backup because three against one, man. She's like four women against three of us, and she's got a lot to say, so we might need some backup. Chad, jump in, bro. We need some backup, dog. And she killed us. So,
big day.
All right, man. We take it easy, man. I'm glad everything's going well. It's getting there. It's getting better, and we'll holler at you next time, okay?
Big bet, man.
I'll be praying for you, Chad.
All right, man.
Thank you, and thank y'all for joining us. Any final words, Mr. JP, the creator?
Well, I'll be praying for you, Chad. No, I really will, man. And go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say that every day above ground is a good day. That's what Pop tells me.
Yes, sir.
It is.
Yes, sir. Well, thank y'all for joining us, man. And I just feel that abuse in any type of way, physically, mentally, emotionally, is not how a relationship should be about. And I really respect people like Chad who fight above it and try to work it out. And sometimes working it out is getting out of it. So thank you for coming on to the podcast and being brave enough to let men know that they can get in that type of relationship. So join us for episode 15, and like we always say, share, subscribe, like, and y'all comment, and y'all have a great day.
Bye.
See y'all later.